Hi everyone. Oftentimes we live our life on autopilot and in constant fear, worry, and a lot of anger and resentment, and we don't even know why we are in that zone of living life like that. And actually, deep inside, nobody actually wants to live a life like that because it's constant pain, and it's not just emotional pain. It's us that we experience that kind of pain in our body. We feel hurt, we feel angry, we feel sad, we feel very low, we feel lonely, helpless, and all sorts of feelings. But it's very important for us to understand that how sometimes our emotional charges from childhood are kind of guiding our life in the present and will continue guiding in future. So it's very important to understand if we have certain emotional traumatic events from childhood and how they're contributing in our present life and how they continue to contribute in our future, which in take will affect our career growth, our finances, our influence, our families, our relationships, our physical health, in fact, every single thing. So, in this video, we'll be covering 5 signs of emotionally traumatic childhood with which you can understand and clarify that if you have that experience, which is why your life is the way you have right now, and you absolutely don't want it like that. So, let me share my screen and show you that what are the 5 signs of emotionally traumatic childhood. Number one thing that you need to look for is persistent anxiety or fear. So, if you experience a generalized anxiety, if you fear certain kind of phobias that you have, certain kind of overthinking that you have, you constantly worry about something in your present day, um, then it's a very high chance that trauma that you have endured as a child, that emotional trauma that you've gone through, has endured and make you hyper vigilant. It's like you're always looking for situations to check if they are going to harm you or not. You are always constantly looking for situations if there's something wrong with certain things. So that is the difference between uh, what people usually talk about, whether they have a positive mindset or a negative mindset. So, by default, when we have emotional traumatic events during our childhood, when we are growing up, we kind of save this information and as a defense mechanism. We want to survive. So, as humans, we always want to survive, we always want to win. And that's how the brain works, that we look for situations that do I have to be in alert mode? Do I have to be vigilant? Do I have to watch out for myself? There are You might think that there are some situations or places where you feel safe. You don't have to look for that, oh, am I in danger? Like, for example, if you are sitting in your room at your home, you are not concerned about whether a criminal is walking by on the road. You are not concerned about whether somebody will rob you or somebody will slit your throat or something, because you are in protected walls and you feel safe. So you will not worry about these things. But if you are in a situation, you are in a crowded space, that will give you a by default mechanism that you will be hyper vigilant. You will be concerned about your belongings. You will look after who you are with. You will look after who is watching you, who is walking by you, who is doing what around, because you would be in survival mode because you have to save yourselves. But at home, you don't have to worry about these things. But the problem is, emotional trauma during a childhood kind of shifts us in being in survival mode, because we start worrying and getting anxious even at the simplest of things, which are not even um, unsafe for us, but it is just the mind's mechanism by default that it will continuously look for harm. So that is one of the reasons in today's world people are very they don't they don't find safe relationships. It's very difficult to feel safe in a secure relationship. They don't find secure relationships in the first place, and in the relationship they are already in, they don't feel safe enough that they can be vulnerable, they can express themselves, they want to love. There are a lot of hindrances, if that's the word. There are a lot of hindrances that these childhood things control our life in the present. So imagine that you are a child who grew up in a household where shouting and criticism were constant. You would constantly hear those bickering, the constant criticism, and every time you heard raised raised voices, your heart raised, and you felt like you were walking on eggshells. So, fearing that something bad would happen is what we should look of. look out for. And now, as an adult, even in the slightest conflict or slightest disagreement, which is not too harmful, it triggers intense anxiety in a lot of us, making it hard for us to relax, making it hard for us to feel at ease in your relationship. So, this is the first sign that you definitely have something, some emotional traumatic experience that you're carrying from your childhood. It could be very simple. It's just that the mind perceives it in a way and takes it for you to survive. So this is the first sign that you need to look for. If you constantly find yourself agitated, worried, anxious in heated discussions, passionate discussions, disagreements, with the slightest of conflict, it's very likely that you are carrying some emotional traumatic pain and you need to heal from it. Number two that you need to take in consider is, oh, oops, I revealed the third one, trusting others. So, um, emotional trauma kind of hampers emotional trauma from childhood specifically kind of hampers our ability to trust. So if as a kid you have experienced that your caregiver, your teachers, your friends, your family around have not been able to live up to your trust, have said something and not done something, have promised you something but did not live up to it, it can be very small, but it's just the fact that a child's brain, a child's perception of the world is very limited. For a child, the world is mummy, papa, home, school, playground, friends, family, food. There is no world beyond that for a child. So for that particular kid, he or she perceives it in a way that okay, they said they will do this, they did not do this. Oh my, I feel hurt. And this is how they develop trust issues. They struggle to trust in adulthood. They struggle to trust in their friendships. They struggle to trust situations. They struggle to trust in God. So, people who don't find secure attachments, in like for example, you continuously feel anxious around your family. You can't express your true feelings. You can't say certain things to your partner. Let's talk about romantic relationships. Those relationships need to be transparent because it's like you two are trying to love each other with all the baggage that you guys are carrying. So you need to feel secure to be able to open up those kind of things that actually are sensitive for you. But the problem is everybody is anxious. Everybody has these kind of tendencies that they would kind of when they're in a trigger mode, when they are in an angry mode, when they would want to win in a conflict, in a fight, in an argument, because that's what the brain does. It's not consciously they're doing. That's just how we humans are. That we want to win in a discussion. We want our point of view to win in a group. We want our ideas to win. We want to be seen, heard, and recognized. So, in conflicts in relationship, when there is a conflict, both of them are fighting to be right, to feel right, that I am the right person. And that is why, in those situations, when the vulnerable parts are opened up and shown to each other, what naturally happens is that the person in conflict would naturally pick on those wounds, and it's very hurting. And when that happens, it's naturally that it happens because of trust, that the trust has been broken. They showed up there something that, hey, I have this wound, can you please respect that? But no, they kind of hit it. They keep hitting, and it creates another wound and a stronger wound, which needs more healing now. So getting back to the emotional experiences in the childhood, um, as an adult, because of that, if you're not able to find secure relationships, if you're not able to feel safe, relaxed, happy, carefree in your relationships, if you are struggling to trust people, and if you reach that point that all men are the same, all men are XYZ, and it's not a good tone, good tonality to it, and it has a negative covering sugar coated thing to it, then it's very likely that you are experiencing trust issues because of a emotional traumatic experience growing up. And it destroys the ability of the kid to develop healthy relationships. The kid does not know how to seek support. The kid does not know how to judge people. The kid does not know how to be vulnerable. The kid kind of shuts themselves down in a box, and that's just how it becomes, and that's how it shows up in our relationships in present and in future. So imagine you're a teenager who was betrayed by a close friend or a caregiver, and in the past, of course. So you confided in them, you expressed and trusting that they would keep your secrets safe. But they broke their trust, spreading all kinds of rumors about you, probably, or neglecting your needs, or not valuing you enough, or you're taking you for granted, and just some form of betrayal that जैसे हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना कि छुरा खोप दिया ऐसे दिल में, that kind of feeling. So now, as an adult, after that experiencing, forming new friendships or romantic relationships will be daunting for you. You will struggle to let people in. You will always wait for the, you will be always anxious that the other person will drop a shoe, and you will always constantly be afraid of being hurt again. So this is the second sign that you need to look for, that if you have very difficult, if you have difficulty trusting others, that is one of the biggest sign to understand that you have emotional traumatic experiences in childhood that you need to heal from, and that's how your relationships are going to transform. And the third thing, that sign that you need to look for is, oh my god, why am I showing all the signs? The third thing you need to look for is low self-esteem and negative self-image. So um, emotional trauma growing up undermines a child's sense of self-worth. So with the kind of experience that the child goes through, it will internalize negative message for themselves. It will tell them that, oh, you are unworthy, you are unlovable, you are a fundamentally flawed person, you make mistakes, you're a failure, you are this, that, and the child would hold on to this because this is what the child perceives, because of the negative emotional trauma that the child has to go through. So these kind of messages are kind of internalized, and it becomes the core of a person, right? And these are the same negative beliefs that persist into our adulthood, right? So you will develop low self-esteem, you will have self-doubts whether you're good enough or not, whether this person what will this person think of you or not. Will this friend, can I be open to my friend, that I can say that this is bothering me, or this person will leave me and I'll be afraid, I will be shitload afraid, because if this person leaves me, it clearly means that I'm not good enough to be loved. I'm not good enough for people to stay in my life. So this is what the internal messaging that goes in. And we as adults then when struggle with the feelings of shame, of guilt, of self-blame. Think of yourself. What all have you feel guilty for and why? What do you blame yourself for and why? Is there an evidence that it genuinely is a justifiable reason for you to feel guilty, for you to feel ashamed, for you to blame yourself? Absolutely no. Most likely no. So this is what happens. This is how our emotional traumatic experiences as child kind of still dictate our life in the present and has already made a blueprint for our future. And we don't want to do that. We need to change these core messages. We need to let go of these emotional traumatic experiences, the charge from it, the pain from it, and actually live a life of freedom. So imagine you're a young child who was constantly criticized and belittled by your parents, and they compared you with your siblings, and probably in a way that you are not favored, or people are pointing out your flaws and mistakes at every opportunity. Over time, you internalize these messages believing that you are worthless, that you are unlovable, and now, as an adult, if you find it hard to accept compliments or acknowledge accomplishments, constantly doubting your abilities and worth, that is your sign. That is a very strong sign that you are carrying some emotional traumatic experience from your childhood. Number four is emotional dysregulation. Oh, I think I just switched the order. You guys get it, of course, right? Let's talk about emotional dysregulation. Um, yes. So, emotional dysregulation comes from that you've been in, it can look like as a child. Let me think of an example. Exposing yourself as a kid to an emotional traumatic experiences kind of disrupts the child's ability to regulate their emotions, whether it's stress, whether it's happiness, whether it's fear, whether it's anger. They don't know how to process these emotions. It's very overwhelming for them, so they don't do anything about it and just sit and be in that scene, and it becomes a constant state of mind that they would carry into their teens, into their adulthood, into their marriage, into their family, into their old age too. That is how they have already defined that this is how I'll be living because I don't know how to regulate my emotions. You have to relearn this stuff, okay? So, uh, and there is a very high chance that because of this, they would numb themselves to avoid experiencing painful emotions. And it impairs the ability to navigate social interactions and cope up with stress and maintain emotional stability. So imagine that you're a teenager who experienced emotional neglect during your early years, and your parents were often absent or preoccupied, leaving you to navigate your emotions alone. And there could be sometimes even that you would express that this is what the problem is, and the parents are not able to support you in a way that you need to. They are not able to give you that kind of suggestion, value, support, hope. So, as a result, you never learned how to regulate your feelings effectively. And now, as an adult, you find yourself overwhelmed by even minor stressors, struggling to manage your anger or sadness, and without resorting to unhealthy coping mechanisms like self-harm or substance. By substance I don't mean just drugs. By substance I mean it could be food, it could be a lot of YouTube, it could be a lot of scrolling, it could be a lot of alcohol, smoking, any kind of habit that you have developed as a coping mechanism falls prey to it. So if you have an unhealthy coping mechanism, there's a very high chance that you don't know how to emotionally regulate yourself, and that is only because you are carrying this emotional baggage of emotional trauma from your childhood, your growing up. And the fifth sign that you need to look for is, okay, that you need to look for is flashbacks. So if you find yourself that you are having certain kind of flashbacks, intrusive flashbacks, memories from your past which are not good and make you feel heightened anxiety or heightened fear, um, it's likely. Like for example, sometimes growing up we see a lot of abuse, a lot of fight. We see an accident, we see something that has shocked us, and we are carrying that shock as a way that it will keep on coming back as an intense emotion in our life. So memories can be triggered by certain reminders or cues in your environment that kind of resemble aspects of the original trauma that you experienced, that you went through. So it can feel as though they're reliving this traumatic experience, and it causes intense distress, anxiety, and disassociation. They don't know how to disassociate themselves from this experience because they don't know that they are just imagining this memory. They are in the present moment, they are safe, but this intrusive memory are kind of ticking them off, and it kind of has a very huge impact on their daily functionality. So it interferes with their ability to function in their daily lives, doing the daily chores, the daily stuff of going to the groceries, working, eating, sleeping, chit chatting, all sorts of things. It's very difficult to function in your day then. Imagine you're a young adult who witnessed a traumatic event during your childhood. It could be a car accident, domestic violence, somebody beating somebody up, or you being left out alone in a very fearful way. Years later, you still have vivid flashbacks and nightmares of that moment, feeling like you're reliving it all over again. The certain sights might come, certain sounds may come, some smells would trigger these memories, making it hard for you to concentrate or sleep at night. So it can look a very torturing if you say if you find certain flashbacks coming to you. Um, it could be your that a lot of stuff around you will kind of trigger that this has happened before, that this is what felt very, very scary for me. And uh, I wouldn't feel safe in that situation. My body is in survival mode. So this is what um, are the top five signs that you should look for um, if you want to know that you are you're you are emotionally traumatized by some form of childhood experience or memory. And one thing that I would like you to do is sit back, close your eyes, and think of it. Out of these five, what all have become a part of your life? And are you proud of it? दिल पे हाथ रख के बोलना, मुझे मत बताओ, खुद को बताओ. दिल पे हाथ रख के. Put your hand on your heart and just truly, genuinely, if are you experiencing these things, are you proud of it? And if you're not proud of it, you really need to heal these things. You really need to free yourself from this burden so that you can start living. You're not living right now, you are surviving. There's a difference between surviving and living, and I want you to live. And if you want to learn how to heal these traumas and how to start living and get out of your survival mode, there's a link in the description by which you can connect with me directly. We're a group of people. We privately take on calls and discuss, and I share exclusive insights and tips and techniques to deal with this stuff. And if you're interested, there's a link in the description of my VIP group, and you can join that. And if you found this helpful, like this video, share anything that you would like in your comments, and um, do share it with a friend who needs this, because I'm sure this would, if this has helped you, I'm sure this will help others too. And if you like this kind of content, if you like to educate yourself, if you like to help heal and have amazing relationships in your life, and you want to start living your life in freedom, then subscribe me and keep watching. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.